Hi, this is Josh Fonger, and welcome to the WTS podcast, where we help business owners move from owning a job to owning a business, mastering their systems so that they can simplify growth. And today I had the special opportunity to talk with my business partner, Sam Carpenter, author of the best-selling book, Work the System, The Simple Mechanics of Making More and Working Less, and the Systems Mindset, Managing the Machinery of Your Life. And many of you are not aware of all the things that Sam's into in terms of he's working on a new book right now, updates to the previous book, politics, nonprofit, other businesses, so many things. And so the point of this podcast is really just to bring it to speed and ask Sam how he does it. You know, what systems he uses, how can he get so much done, what makes him more efficient than other entrepreneurs and CEOs. And so Sam, glad to have you on the call.
Hey, Josh. Good to talk to you again.
All right, very good. And for those of you listening to this podcast and not watching the video, Sam's out in his back deck enjoying the sun. And so if there's any, birds chirping in the background or a car drives by, that's why. It's live and it's outside. Okay, well, good. Well, so Sam, let's just do a quick recap. What have you been up to in the last year?
Well, let's go backwards. We're in Oregon now, Bend, Oregon, up here on Aubrey Butte. It's so beautiful. And we are, I was in politics for a while and may continue to be. And so we had a campaign and the whole thing. And I'm writing a book about that. We have our house in Kentucky, and we just, it's Diana, me, and the dog at either place. We do a lot of hiking and climbing, especially. And in the meantime, I help you a little bit. Centratel, I spend maybe a half hour a week, not even that much. That's our main income. Of course, with our enterprise, there's some income there. And the nonprofit work, Diana's a quilter and a heavy-duty exerciser. And we're always outside or inside. I like to read and write a lot. It's a good life. Most of everything we do is creative. We don't keep doing the same work over and over and over again. Writing a book, climbing, we climb different mountains every time. The dog, it's a real good life because, we control our systems, and our systems are either automated, delegated, or deleted. Sometimes we drive across the country. Sometimes we fly. I think when we go back this next time, we're thinking about flying back. But the cross-country trips are great. Diana's sister lives in Colorado, and they have a condo up there in Dillon, Colorado, and we hang there. It's a good life, and we're certainly enjoying it.
So let's talk a little bit, not go too deep into politics, but as a business guy, as someone who's built up Centratel and built systems, wrote a book about it. Why politics? What was the interest there?
Well, the interesting thing is, as I've worked my last, I don't know, how long's it been? Almost 20 years focusing on processes and systems. What I do know deep in my guts is that our lives are collections of systems, and those systems produce results. Your results right now sitting there, my results sitting here, there were systems that led up to this. And so we focused on working on systems to get where we are and create the life we want, automate, delegate, delete. And what I've noticed about government is it's completely chaotic. There are other agendas going on with decisions that are made, personal decisions that have nothing to do with the welfare of the people the politician is supposed to serve. Incredibly dysfunctional, incredibly, more so than anything I've ever seen. And it's 100% of the time. Some people aren't quite so bad as the others, but what I wanted to do was get in the middle of government and see what I could do to make it more efficient and more productive. It drives me crazy to watch our governments at work. I don't care whether you're Democrat, Republican, or whatever you are, or whether it's municipal or state or federal government. The dysfunction is unbelievable. So obviously I wrote this book called Work the System. Those tenets of that book apply to everywhere, to everything all the time. And certainly our government would be low-hanging fruit if a person could get in a position of authority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I couldn't agree more. It's it's efficient and it's tough to get in there, the belly of the beast, and actually clean it up. But we'll see. We'll see the future.
Yeah, I was runner up in a primary gubernatorial race out here in Oregon, but I'm still deeply involved and still hopeful some of the dysfunction in our government here in Oregon can be straightened out. I'd like to be a part of it.
Good. Well, I'm sure everyone would prefer the tax dollars be spent.
You think?
Yeah, no one's against that. I don't think.
Yeah.
Except for the politicians, maybe. So that being said, different topic, your book. So Working System, I think it's been around, 10 years now. You made an update this last year. What's new in the book?
Yeah, every time we do a reprint, and I think this was the 12th reprint, okay. And I've had 3 editions. We're in the 3rd edition now. Every time we do a reprint or an edition, obviously there's updates, massive updates. And so this newest version that came out, the one I see it behind your head there with the red emphasis, that came out just a few weeks ago. And there's lots of little tweaks in it, in the preface especially, and the things that have to do with what's happening right now. But essentially it's the same book, the same message. And of course, when I wrote it I started in 2006. It was published for the first time in 2008. I wanted it to be a book that would have legs, not a political book or some book about passing fad or fancy, but a book that talked about tenets, principles, and processes that would apply over the long term. And it turns out, of course, the systems methodology affects, like I said, everything, everywhere, all the time. And so it's been kind of fun to redo that book every 2 years or so, bring it up to date. And as some stuff has dropped out of the appendix, some new stuff's been put in. Things change quickly in the society, and so it's always good to get a refreshed edition out, or a refreshed version. And this is, I think, the 6th printing of the 3rd edition, 6th or 7th of the 3rd. And the 3rd will have legs for a while before it goes to a 4th.
And I like to remind my clients, people that to start to follow Work the System, is that you're living proof of what tweaking is that you have a direction, and then whether it's a book or it's a business or it's your health, you're always thinking, what can I do to make it better, optimize it? Instead of chasing something off track, it's always pursuing the same direction.
You've got to get all of your energy focused in the same direction. And that's why, boring but true, we have to have documentation about what we want. And I have designed the exact life I've always dreamed of here, sitting up on a mountain looking down on Bend, Oregon. All the time I need, more money than I need. And I did that on purpose, and it went way, way back to the beginning. Although I didn't understand the system strategy, I started with this business 34 years ago. It's a small call center. I have about 60 people. And I thought, what can I do that has recurring income and I don't have to show up? What can I do? So this call center business, or any kind of a regular, boring kind of a business, suits the purpose. Being an attorney doesn't. You got to show up. Being a doctor doesn't. You have to show up. And I had in my mind, I want to make more than $200,000 a year. Okay. So right from the beginning, the system that I didn't quite understand what I was doing, but I thought, I want to find something to do in my life that produces money without me having to having to show up. A car salesman is the worst thing in the world, because you have to sell cars every day. You have to sell 2 cars or whatever it is. And I don't have to show up. And so that stream of system thought has gone right through to today. And of course, I dreamed about, having a beautiful house, or maybe a couple of houses, and a woman who really loves me and a dog, and lots of time and lots of money. And I've always focused all my energies down that road. I've taken plenty of chances, and I haven't always spent my money wisely, but I am where I want to be as far as income, time, and everything else. And that has to do with keeping a direct focus on what ultimately you want in your life. Make sense?
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I think that's good for entrepreneurs to hear. And also, I think the other thing is that your road to get there was not just straight. And nor was it quick. There's bumps along the way, but you stuck with it. And that's what I've noticed with people who are most successful is that they didn't just try for 6 months or a year, then do something else, and try for 6 months and a year, then do something else. They stick with it, knowing that everything that you just talked about does align once you pick the right course.
Right. And so, boy, lots of still stumbles, but the basics are taken care of. I tell people, okay, my life isn't perfect. There's ups and downs and everything, but I'll tell you, having enough money and having a lot of time sure goes a long way to giving you the impetuous to take care of those problems as they come up. Mm-hmm. And of course, those of our viewers who have read Work the System understand that there will be problems. Mm-hmm. The question is, do you have the capacity to overcome them, or are they going to knock you out of the box? Mm-hmm. And so as the problems have come up, I've had deaths in the family and divorce and all that stuff. And if you have the capacity to handle the challenges won't handle you. It won't knock you down and knock you back to where you lose your job, you lose your wife, the kids don't love you anymore. You will have the capacity to spend time and energy in fixing those problems as they come up. Mm-hmm. Capacity, resilience.
Yeah. Resilience. Yeah, I think there's a client I'm working with right now. That's a big word. Is that the systems that you built give you resilience, because those emergencies are going to happen. They happen to everybody, but if you have built up the backlog of systems, processes, procedures, the structure, the infrastructure, then you don't get knocked down to square one. You get knocked down a few squares, but not all the way back to the bottom.
And we all have people around us who just seem to be constantly in a nightmare, one thing after another, or two at the same time. And they go over here and they go over there, and their whole lives are chaos because their systems are controlled by other factors or just not controlled at all. And it really is true that our systems are collections. Our lives are collections of systems. It really is true. So it makes sense to get control of those systems and get them directed in the right direction, and then pursue that with every ounce of energy you've got.
Mm-hmm. Now, I wanted to ask you a few questions, because I think this will be interesting. So you have this business, Centertel. Centertel is very efficient. It's been doing its thing for years and years and years, getting better and better and better with time. But then you have these new enterprises, whether they're political or other startup companies. What's the difference? So what kind of mindset do you go into with a company that's pretty running smooth and growing versus one that has nothing established, and you're joining people together who don't really have any systems in place? How are those different?
Well, yeah. So we started a new business called Pathway One, and it's a social media marketing company. And most of my people are in Europe, oddly enough. There's only 6 of us. But we started from scratch. What are we going to do? How are we going to do this and this and that? And we spent, a few months talking about it. Marcello, our head IT guy, who and very well. And we finally decided which direction we wanted to go, and then we got it down on paper and agreed on it. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, that can morph and change. But starting a new enterprise from scratch with no real problems, just not having anything fundamental, it's easy to do if you just kind of churn it around in your head, talk to the people you're with, start to get it down on paper, and move in that direction that we're talking about. Mm-hmm. It's no different than taking a chaotic company where the owner is working 80 hours a week and killing fires and problems with employees, cash flow problems. It's no different. And I know what you do, Josh. You're our field guy. You go into the middle of a company and say, this isn't working, obviously, right? And they say, yeah, but I don't know what to do about it. And you help them work through that. And they usually decide, come up with the best idea. Sometimes a bad employee just needs to go. This employee's screwing your whole life up. Well, I always say, it's my brother-in-law. I'm sorry, it's your brother-in-law. Your wife will get over it, but this person is destroying your future. And sometimes it's that, and sometimes it's just chaos in the books or not paying the taxes or something like that. And of course, what you do is you go into the middle of those situations and work with the owner of the company to determine what the biggest problem is. What's killing you right now, man? Mm-hmm. or woman, and you figure out what that big thing is, and you get it under control, and you go to the next biggest thing, the next big. That's all I did. It took me a long time to figure it out to where I could put it down in a book and everything, but that's what I did. You start with the biggest problem and move down to the next one. They may not have to do, one might be accounting and one might be sales. They don't have to have anything to do with each other, but I know what you do out there, according to the book that you follow, is you take the biggest problem first, and that gives the owner some time and some money to work on the second. And then you do that all the time. Now, just one more thing. All my managers down at Centratel, and there's 7 of them, all they do is work on systems all day. They don't do the work. We've got other people to do the work. They work on processes and systems. And actually, when a problem comes up, it's a very good thing, because we can go into a system and we can tweak it so that problem never happens again. We simply don't have fire killing at Centratel. Oh, we have personnel problems once in a while, the things that do come up, but we've eliminated 98% of the fire killing down there. And any of our viewers out there, can you imagine what it's like to eliminate 98% of the fire killing in your business? That would give you time to talk to clients, train your staff, and do all this other stuff you always hope to do, but you never have time because you're spending 80 hours a week just trying to survive.
Yep.
So it is a matter of slowing down and paying attention to the processes and the systems.
Yeah, well, I think that's a lot of good nuggets there. And I was recalling a podcast I just recorded with a client where she has a desk of all of her projects. And I started working with her, and we systemized her business. And then she was getting to all of her projects, and she said that she found a project that she really wanted to work on, and it was dated 5 years ago. Just like for 5 years, it's been sitting there, and now she's finally getting to it, and just the results. And so, and the other thing for people who are new to work the system is that there's a lot of systems to build in a company, but you can make a good impact if you start with the hardest or the most impactful ones first, and then work your way down like you did. Every procedure you write, every system you build has a big impact, and maybe you still have 100 more to write or build, but the first one can give you noticeable return on investment.
Very quickly, and I tell people within a week or two, typically, depending on what it is. Now, the first system we fixed saved me 2 hours a week, but that was 18 years ago. Do the math. It's like 2 years. And it took 8 hours to put that process together and get everybody trained on it and get everybody's input. But the next one took us a month to do. And that was huge too. But it was the second biggest problem we had. And then the next one and the next one. And again, you never stop working on processes. As soon as you start doing the work, you're losing track. Now, an owner of a small company does need to do the sales and talk to the customers, but that's all they should be doing. If that's the case. And hopefully you'll hire a salesperson later on. If you can't build your business into a separate entity that works without you being in the middle of it, you have nothing of value when you fall off a roof or you get sick or you just want to sell the business. The business is you. It's a fancy job. And I think we've all heard that before, but it's really, really true. What you want to do is set up your business so it's its own freestanding entity so you could sell it one day. Yeah.
So I want to change gears a little bit, just out of my own curiosity. I got a question here lined up in terms of travel, because I know you travel a lot, and a lot of people listening travel a lot. What is how do you stay efficient while you travel? Do you have any systems that work for you?
Oh yeah, everything from my travel cords, which are scattered on the table here because we tried to set something up before this podcast, to the ticketing, to what I do on a plane. The driving across country is great. We've got the car all set up for heavy duty Wi-Fi. It's a big, solid, safe Audi Q7. It's okay if we get in a wreck, we're going to be okay. And it's got lots of room. There's places for the dog that Diana set up a whole little thing for the dog in there. And we make sure we've got our reservations in advance. We've got the cooler. We really pay attention before we take off for about 48 hours to all the different systems that are necessary to make the traveling super efficient. And of course, when I was in the political race, we were putting 5,000 miles a month on the car, and we really had to have it down to a science. I'd be working to Facebook, and she'd be driving, and it was down to a science. Again, we're working on the processes and the systems. And even though we're doing the work of driving down the road, while we're driving down the road, a lot is being accomplished because of the forethought and the process work. You always want to be working on your systems. You know, it really is that simple. And of course, you know that with what you're doing, Josh, teaching how to do it, you've got to be systemized, automated, delegated, deleted. And you constantly sing that mantra to yourself, and pretty soon you've got the time and the money you need to be successful.
So what about your dog? That's a new addition over the last year. What do you have any dog systems? I got a puppy recently too, so.
Oh, did you? Yeah, you did, didn't you? So Justy, I found him stuck in a fence in backcountry Kentucky. His head was stuck in a goat fence. I cut him out with some wire clippers, and the owner didn't want them anymore. So we've had them for 2 years now. And the greatest, and of course there's systems. We have our little ritual. We talk to each other when we get up in the morning. But the greatest thing, and I think one of the greatest technical marvels I've seen, is our Garmin GPS system. So he's a hound. He smells something, man, he's gone. And remember, we're out in the woods and up on mountains all the time. So he's got this collar with a little antenna coming out the back, and I've got the GPS unit. And so the collar has a GPS, my unit has a GPS, and then radio signals in between to communicate, because there's not always cellular. That dog, I know exactly what direction he is and how many feet away he is. And he might be 1.4 miles. Well, I know exactly where he is, so I don't sweat it anymore. But we went the first 6 months with that dog. Oh, I don't know how many hours and hours we spent trying to search for him. But this thing is unbelievably great. And you talk about automating. All we got to do is plug it in at night and remember to take it in the morning. And it's the most wonderful thing. But we struggled. We didn't know if we needed something like that. We tried a different one. It wasn't any good. We did a lot of research on the web, and we found the very best system there is. I didn't want to really pay $800 for it. I wanted to pay $300 for something, but you had to pay $800. And subsequently, we've run into other people, and they always end up with this Garmin unit. And it is one of the greatest process systems that I've bought in the last 10 years for anything, really.
Well, and then you think about it, I mean, $800 sounds like a lot, but if you spend a couple hours looking for your dog, because you have a hound dog, he's going to run wherever he wants to run for hours, you'd be wasting a couple hours a day, every day of the week, and your time's worth way more than the $800.
Yeah, and I think if we lost the little guy, we would feel really horrible about it. And he came real close to being lost more than once. It's funny that Kentucky backcountry is as wild as the Western backcountry. It goes for miles and miles and miles, depending on where you are. We're in Eastern Kentucky, just hardwood forests go on forever, canyons and the plateau there. And it's real easy to lose an animal back there as well as it is here. We went up, you remember Green Lakes, the Green Lakes Lake up here in Bend, Josh. We went way, way up in there, and he got quite a ways away, but we didn't worry about it. We just kept walking because he'll smell his way back ultimately. Oh, and you can signal him with the device too. And if you have to give them a stimulation, you can do that. But we rarely have to do that. It's just been wonderful. But I guess how does this relate to our viewers here? Well, it relates exactly because whatever you're trying to accomplish, you set up a process and a protocol that's either automated, delegated to somebody else, or deleted if it's a waste of time. And we all have processes in our lives that are a waste of time and they don't lead anywhere. That's the most delightful thing, of course, is to delete something. But this thing we did with our dog is exactly how a system within a business should be set up. The best quality you can get, the most automated you can get, the most reliable you can get to do the job for you, so you can go do this other stuff, the sales or the maintenance or whatever it is that you as a business owner find most valuable in you. right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that, I'm thinking of the correlation with the dog thing as well as, and I don't know if you remember this, but years ago, you had the punch in and the punch out clock at Centratel, which
Oh yeah.
was like, and I don't even know what it was historically. Maybe they actually wrote their names and wrote their times in, but it's usually accurate, except for when people fudge the numbers or when they punch their friends in or they punch their
Yeah.
friends out, and
Yeah.
so your managers would have to go and double check and do some research and investigate and waste their time spinning their wheels, not really sure. But now you have a finger scanner, so it's got to be someone's finger scanned in and scanned out. So there's no, like, the technology takes all that away, right? And so it spent some money for that, but that technology solved all of the related side issues and fires associated with punching in and punching out.
That's a great example. And we couldn't pinpoint it, but come on, let's face human nature. Somebody's coming in late, and their bonus gets hurt if they come in late, so they call their friend to punch me in. Well, you can't do it if it's a fingerprint anymore. And so that is one of the better mechanical systems we've put into Centratel. Mm-hmm. And on the other end of the scale is we just put a $200,000 HVAC system in the building that I own down here, 12,000-foot building, a brand new HVAC system. It's the same thing. The old one was acting up. It was 20 years old. We put the new one in. Everybody's got controls in their offices. Systems always work on the systems and the processes.
Yeah, and also do the math. I mean, in the short term, it's a big investment, but in the long term, that's what being an entrepreneur is about: is investing in assets that are going to pay you back over the long haul. Meanwhile, keeping cash flow good enough as you build those assets. And that's the dance that people have to play is, if you just stop selling and you work on your systems, well, you go out of business. But if all you do,
and you can go out of business if you don't keep people around too. Okay. So we pay our people really high. Our people are highly paid, and at Centratel, the 60 people down here, they make a lot of money because we don't want turnover. It's very self-serving in a sense, but I've got people that have been down there almost 30 years. A number of people over 20 years. And the reason is, I'm sorry, people work to make money so they can live at home. It's not for the satisfaction of the job, although that's important. But the primary reason people work at a job is to make money so they can have their free time and have their families survive. And so we know that. In fact, we did a survey many, many years ago and found that out. Why are you here? For the money. I have to work. So we pay people maybe more than what a lot of people would say we should, but we do it and we don't have any turnover. And that's one of these quiet courage kind of things. There's a chapter in my book about quiet courage. You don't have to have the data. You just have to know in your guts that it's a smart thing to do.
Yeah, and I think for those just starting out, is they think, well, I don't have the money. And that is the whole point of this work the system method is you want to build a business that's really, really efficient and it has a lot of margin, is really, really profitable so that you can get great people and keep them around. I mean, the whole idea of having an efficient business is not just so you make more money, which you will, but everyone will as well. I mean, if you build that margin in.
Well, it turns out it makes me feel really good. I really take care of my people and it makes me feel good, but it also works. It's also the smart thing to do. So I've got a business where my staff is really taken care of well. There's about 1,000 answering services in the United States who do what we do. We are unquestionably the highest quality by any kind of metrics. And then Diana and I have a wonderful life. The income's terrific. We charge a lot for what we do, and everybody's happy. You can't scrimp on your people, that's for sure. You can't not take care of your clients. You have to show a profit. And you do that by, okay, I had this epiphany way back, and I thought, and this was after I got the main epiphany about systems. In fact, it was that same night I thought, what if I made all my separate systems? Because I realized my business was a collection of separate systems. They didn't really have anything to do with each other, except they did work together. What if I made every system in my business perfect? Would I have a perfect business? I really didn't know the answer to that at the time. but it turned out that that was true. If you can make all the systems that compose your business perfect, you're going to have a perfect business, and you're going to have a life.
So what about now? And I've got a few questions I wanted to ask from our WTS Mastery Club. We got this Mastery Club now where you hang out and I hang out. And there were some questions that came in recently, and I wanted to pull it up as we're talking here to make sure I didn't miss any of these good questions. I know one of them was, what does Sam do? He only works a few minutes a week inside hotel. So what does he do on that during that time? Since it is only a half hour a week, what is that time spent on? So that was one of the questions from the group.
What is the half hour spent on?
Yeah.
Research and development. Sorry, I'm going to turn this phone off. Research and development. Any big problems that have come up. For instance, our IT chief's coming over here from Italy, and he'll be coming in. So I went ahead and set up the place where he's going to stay. And I've been working on some high-level systems for with Marcello on the Pathway 1 business. Andy, I was involved a little bit with the HVAC that was installed, and then we're putting together this, I won't go into the details about this software platform that's really going to incorporate everything. And I'm not doing the work. I just want to know what's going on and what direction we're headed in. And that might be a phone call or two a week or something like that. Last week, I didn't even talk to Andy. I'm in Bend. The office is 2 miles away. I didn't even go into the office because everything's handled. And we might have a personnel problem. She asked me what, in my opinion, because I've been in this business so long, what should I do? But really, we've got an HR person who knows more about it than I do now. So it's very informal. There's nothing. I don't even have an office I think you know that, Josh. I don't even have an office in the office anymore because I'm not there at all. I gave my really nice office, I gave it to Andy, our CEO. I don't even have an office at home. I just set up on the table whenever I have to work. I don't do much work. And when I say maybe I work a half hour a month, honestly, or an hour a month, I'd be hard pressed. That's probably an exaggeration.
Well, and I think hopefully the thing that entrepreneurs get is that as you get to that level, it's just the projects you want to work on. So research and development, things that interest you, things that are innovative ideas that you get because you're outside the business now, you get to be a part of.
Right. And it's exciting to talk about, negotiating for a new HVAC or redoing a loan. I'll work with Cheryl, our CPA, in-house CPA. It's kind of fun to work on those big deals, and they really do need my guidance and my input on those. And that's fun to do.
I got another question here. So the question is, ask him about his onboarding process and how he gets new hires trained. So how do you get these people with a new mindset, and how do you onboard them?
Well, that's an interesting thing. So I ran across, I've known this guy for about a year, and this has to do with Pathway 1. Really sharp guy. I have no clue where we will put him, but we hired him anyway. Because he's a guy I want to work with, and he's very sharp technically. He's very literate. He's calm and relaxed. And since we hired him a couple of weeks ago, we know where he's going with the company. So a lot of times I'll hire people without really even having a slot. There's so few systems-oriented people out there. We'll take them as they come. Having said that, the other end of the spectrum are our TSRs, the people who answer the calls. They come in, they work 8 hours or 10-hour shifts, whatever shift they end up with, and then they go home. How do we train them? It's all automated. It used to take 6 months to train a TSR, and that's when we had 150 accounts. Now we have 1,600 accounts. It doesn't take 6 months. It takes 3 days because they sit down and they study what they're supposed to do. We've developed a system language for them to handle 1,600 different answering service accounts. They're all different from each other. Do you memorize something? No, you memorize the language. We worked about a year to develop a training package where we could take somebody who had average IQ at least, wasn't doing drugs, could type, and we can train that person to be up and running and making really good money in less than a week. So we focused on that training program exclusively.
Mm-hmm.
So all we have to do, and we have a whole process of, as I said, no drugs. You got to type. You've got to have a decent IQ. We've got a whole program of profiling people, starting with the actual ad we run online.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, we say, drug testing, there's going to be drug testing. That eliminates a lot of people in this society today, because we can't have stoned people answering calls, doctors' emergencies, and so forth. Mm-hmm. So starting with that ad we run for a new person on through, there's a very definite sequence of questions that are asked and hoops that have to be jumped through. And we're constantly tweaking that and making it better and better and better. We rarely hire somebody who doesn't work out anymore. And it used to be the opposite. So systems.
Yeah. And for those listening who don't know much about the answering services, TSRs, the people answering the phones, it's a difficult position to hire for, and it's a difficult position to keep people for. And in your business, you have a lot of them. And so if you're in a company where you're having, let's just say, hiring 10 new salespeople a month, or you have a lot of volume, then doing what Sam does is essential. You have to build the systems to make it happen. Whereas if you're just hiring one person a year, you're not going to dial in a system like this, but you do want to have, you call them hoops, Sam, these essentials. Like they have to be able to pass these markers, or they're just not worth even interviewing. So what are the hoops you have at Centratel?
Well, those three I mentioned already. When they come in for the interview, do they look the interviewer in the eye? Mm-hmm. Do they have questions? Because they're just sitting there looking for a job. They're probably not going to work out. We go through how it's tough at first because this is a 24/7 operation. Is it okay if you don't have the greatest work shifts when you start? We never let a deal killer type question go by, because in that, if there is a deal killer question in there, no, I can only work 8 to 5 to begin. Well, we want to know that right in the beginning. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the questions, it's the sequence that they're asked. It's the whole system flow of onboarding people that is very critical. And again, it does start with getting the right people to walk in the front door. Mm-hmm. That's about it. And there's a chapter in Work the System, Josh, as you know, about the hoops that we have people jump through. I think they're listed 1 through 12 or 1 through 10. I forget. It's in there, and people can start with that and then customize it to fit their own business. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, drug testing is important. Drug testing is important because before we did drug testing, and this was 12, 14 years ago, we really had high turnover, really, really high turnover. And as soon as we insisted on that, our turnover dropped. The stupid mistakes stopped. Like we'd say to somebody, why did you do that? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, I don't know. I guess I was tired. Well, I guess you were stoned. That's going on in our heads, at least. The system of drug testing is critically important, and it has dramatically reduced the number of people who apply for the job. So our biggest problem right now, the biggest challenge, and we've solved this challenge, I can tell you about it. Our biggest challenge is finding good people who are drug-free and are going to be around for a while. And so we've tackled that now. And I just wanted to bring that up as a very, no matter how many positive things people have going for them as an employee, their background, their family, their IQ, I don't care what positive things they have going for them. If they're going to come in stoned, it's all those things won't matter. Mm-hmm. Or if they've got serious problems at home, none of that's going to matter. It's just like if somebody came in, and we do IQ testing, if somebody didn't test real high on the IQ, I don't care how wonderful their personality is or they are drug-free, it's not going to work out. Mm-hmm. And that's when I use this term deal killer in the interview. You want to find the things that will negate, N-E-G-A-T-E, all the other wonderful attributes of that person. You've got to drill down and see if there's a deal killer problem with that person.
Very true. Well, I don't want to take too much of your time. I got just two more quick questions. What advice would you give to someone who is they're maxed out on time and they're maxed out on money? They've got no more money left over at the end of the month, and they have no extra time. They're putting all their time in. They got a new enterprise. What kind of advice would you give someone in that state with their small business?
Okay, so they're on the edge of failure.
Yeah, they're just survival. They'd like to hire, but they have no money, and they can't work any more hours.
Okay, so what I'd say to that person is what you're doing isn't working. So take a couple of hours away from all of it, away from your family, and sit down and think about what you're doing. And the first step would be to look around wherever you are sitting around and see the separate systems. Okay, and I've gone through this with you. My beagle is down here at my feet. He's a separate system. I could walk in the house, in the kitchen, and the water tap is a separate system. I could flip on the lights, it's a separate system. Take apart your business in your head and see the separate systems of it. And once you can do that, okay, there's the sales system, there's the complaint handling system, there's the payroll system. Once you're really in your head, and in this 1 or 2 hour stretch, you can do that, and you'll ultimately want to do that 24/7 all the time. And when you find out that that does work, that is an accurate profile of your life, you will always do it naturally. But in that 1 or 2 hours, as you're sitting there, look at your systems and ask yourself, what is the biggest problem? That's where you want to start. And it might be your brother-in-law. It might be, no matter what else you do, that guy's got to go because of this and this and this. Or it might be you don't have good inventory control. Or it might be any number of things that are costing you time, serious time and serious money more than any of the other problems you may have. You need to find a way to tackle that in a systematic way. And I'm telling you, it always requires writing things down in a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 step format, Josh. That I won't go into the details of what our first system was we fixed, but it had 53 steps. It did. And we had 2 managers and me sit down over a period of about 8 hours over 3 separate days. And it's in the book. It's in the book, by the way. And we analyzed it and came up with the proper system. And that immediately, I didn't have to do that process anymore along with those 2 managers. We got a third person to do it by just handing them the written procedure and say, go do it now. And in fact, while you're doing it, see if you can punch holes in this. And that person did. They said, well, what do you do here? So we made the written process even a little better and a little better and a little better. We operate on written processes. So that person that's having a nightmare right now, see the separate systems, number 1. And number 2, figure out a way to isolate that problem. And remember, if you don't see your business as a big mishmash of confusion, you see it as separate processes. It's easy to take that process out, fix it, and insert it back in. Then you go to the second one. That's all I've done with my life. That's it. If there's a dysfunctional system, I either automate it, I delegate it, or I delete it. And I invite our viewers to write that down: automate, delegate, delete. And that's what you do with your whole day. Unless you're climbing a mountain or something. But even then, climbing a mountain is there's a destination and there's a process to get up there. You better make sure you bring some water with you and the climbing gear if you need it. So you're always working on processes as a leader. That's what any successful CEO does.
Yeah, and I like that idea of just maybe everything feels confusing, but you just take one, you take the biggest, most important slice out of your business, you fix it and you slice it back in, and then you work with it for a while, then you take the next dysfunctional piece. And it's not the whole thing at once. That's too overwhelming, but it's probably just one linchpin, one major element that really needs fixing, and everything else is probably working pretty okay. Just,
And let's say you had a really simple business and you got all your systems documented, you got everything working smoothly. You're not done because those systems are never finished. You're always updating them because the environment changes, or this changes, or there's another opportunity, or you got hammered over here. You're always working on your systems, hence the name of the book, Work the System. You're always working the systems that create the results.
Yep.
So my life, your life, Josh, we're sitting here 1,500 miles apart having this discussion. where let's take you're sitting there with the books behind you and everything. A bunch of systems led up to this result of you sitting there, including walking from the other room a few minutes ago to our first lunch together 8 years ago. All those systems added up to you sitting there. All those systems added up. All my systems added up to me being here. But if you can't see your life as the product, the end product of a multitude of separate systems, you're going to continue to be in chaos. That is the key. And once you get that systems mindset, I wrote a book on it. My second book is called The Systems Mindset, Managing the Machinery of Your Life. Until you get that insight, and you can get it now. Some people who are watching this have it already. Other people will think about it for a week or two. It will come. And once you get to see the separate systems of your life adding up to your life, you'll have it made. Then you can worm your way out of the confusion.
One system at a time. So let's leave with this. So how could folks get in touch with you or interact with you now that you're you're kind of traveling, you're involved in politics and business. So where's the best place to do that now?
I respond quite rapidly to anybody who wants to get a hold of me. And if anybody out there has a personal question, I will respond. Just send it to info@workthesystem.com. And our admin people will filter it out and send it to me. I hesitate to give out my personal email address for obvious reasons, but it will get to me and I will respond. And I'm happy to, but I can't give you a whole long, that's why you have this end of our business job. Hey, Sam, help me solve my problems. Well, I'll give you some overviews, but I'm probably going to send them to you, Josh.
Yeah. Well, and also, and kind of a leading question there for you. And our new mastery club, so Work the System Mastery Club, that is where Sam's there from time to time, interacting with some of the people who follow your book, follow your materials, and follow this podcast. And so I've been getting Sam to get there more and more often, and hopefully we'll see you there in that private club.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That was your idea, Josh, and I think it's a fantastic job. I think you told me this morning you have hundreds of people in there already. Yeah. You launched it a week ago or 2 weeks ago. So that's awesome, and it's a good way to communicate with Josh. And I'll be in and out, and sometimes I'll make an appearance somehow, and keep it going. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, good. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, for listening, for grabbing some ideas from Sam, the master of systems, the guru, the one who wrote the book about it and is living the lifestyle. I hope it inspired you to say you could do that too. He's a regular guy, and it just came from that insight and applying it tenaciously. Right, Sam? That's
it. No, anybody can do this, and all those people out there that are fabulously successful are regular people. They're not aliens. They just got a grip, whether they know it or not, on their processes, and we're able to hone those processes to perfection. Yeah.
Well, good.
Well, thanks, Josh.
All right. Thanks, Sam. It was fun.
Okay.
Talk to you soon.
Talk to you later.
Bye.